Hey, good morning. Welcome back to HazMat Ops Training. And this episode of This Week in HazMat, Bella and I are out for a walk on a beautiful North Carolina Sunday morning. We finally got a break in the weather. It's almost October, and we're getting our finally getting a cool break here. So again, thank you for being with us. Remember that This Week in HazMat is dedicated to case studies. It's dedicated to things that are going on around the country to keep us sharp, designed for you to analyze your policies, your procedures, just food for thought a lot of times. But we just want to be there to help you and look at things that are going on around the country. Since we've started this, we've been able to come to you about every other week. We're coming to you from Studio C, otherwise known as the park down the street. We'll go back to Studio A in just a few minutes and resume the episode. But thanks again for being with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, so welcome back in the studio with us. We want to talk today about incident command system. That's something that we haven't talked about yet on the channel, and it's fundamental to everything that we do. So we wanted to make sure that some of the things that we've talked about already, we kind of bring full circle, bring together. And this past week, some colleagues of mine and I were together teaching some incident command system training to a number of folks here in North Carolina. It kind of dawned on me, I haven't really done a whole lot on the channel yet with incident command. So it's kind of a passion of mine. It's been something that I've been interested in and been involved in for a long time. In everything that we do, we should use the fundamental principles of the incident command system every single time. It's a national standard. There's things that the incident command and NIMS is tied to through other regulations, so we should always use those fundamental pieces. It's also expected of us as emergency responders. It doesn't matter if we're paid, volunteer, urban, rural, doesn't matter. The public, our customer, the citizens we serve, they expect that level of professionalism. If we don't do that and we just apply if a problem comes up, I'll take care of it type of mentality, then really we're winging it. We're kind of rogue. I think one of the biggest things that we fail ourselves on is the amount of information that's in the ICS curriculum. It's a ton of information. If you go through ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800, which is the minimum nationwide or national standard for any responder in the emergency services, that's kind of the basis, is 100, 200, 7, and 800, then it's information overload. And then you take 300 and 400 and put it on top of that. For a traditional responder who rides a call, comes back to the station, whatever your world is, it's hard to get our mind around it. It's hard for us to relate to everyday business. And then when we provide this training, and a lot of times agencies, they'll say, you need to get this training. You need to get 100, 200, 700, 800, 300, and 400, and we need to get it as quickly as we can, and we overload people. And all it does is scare them off. And then they end up not using it at all. So we just go right back to the same mentality that we have. If a problem comes up, I'll take care of it, and we'll just kind of wing it, and we're not doing ourselves a good service. It's important to make sure that we understand the fundamentals, and that's what we want to talk about here today, is what are some of those key fundamentals. Take away all of that other fluff, take away those other things that we'll get to, and we can learn as we go, but not try to learn everything all in 1 week or that kind of thing. So that's what we want to concentrate on today, is making sure that we understand what are those truly key things. Remember, all emergencies start at the local level and they end at the local level. So if we can get started even with a large incident, and think about things like a train derailment. Most of you, not everyone, but everybody has a rail system of some kind coming through their area. If you don't, you probably have a neighboring agency that does, that you may ride mutual aid with. But think about a train derailment. If you've ever worked a derailment or a train incident in general, there's a lot of agencies that become involved with those types of incidents. A lot of 3 and 4 letter acronym type agencies from state and federal government. There's a lot of players. So when that emergency starts locally, we need to start with the same mentality that we are or that we're going to have when it's as big as it's going to get. Yes, it'll ramp up, it'll get big and stay big for a while, but then it's going to ramp down, and we're going to have to recover from that incident at the local level, just like we started. So we want to make sure that we're starting correctly so that when it does build, we've got a good basis and a good foundation for a successful incident. The key is we've got to ask for help. So again, starting correctly and then asking for help, getting the appropriate resources and not waiting to ask, but waiting too long. We want to make sure we get the appropriate resources there in a timely manner. And again, ops level responders and ops level response agencies, it's not expected of you to be able to handle everything that you're going to be dispatched on. We've got to be willing and we've got to be in that mindset to call the right resource, whatever that resource may be. That may be a technician level HazMat team, that may be a contractor, it may be a specialist of some kind. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. The smart incident commander and the smart incident manager will ask for help and get the appropriate resource there to handle the incident. You see here the planning P that we have up on the screen. We see that again in the 100, 200, 300, 400 classes. That's not just a graphic. It's very, very important. And there's some key fundamental things here that we can take away. Just like we talked about in the Emergency Response Book Guidebook series and some of our placard stuff, take this planning P and put it right in the file, in the rig, on the rig with you there, in your vehicle, whatever the case may be. Have this planning P as a part of your reference manual because there's some really good key takeaways, and it can act sort of as a checklist. It can act as a workflow for you. The other thing is an org chart, and you see that here on the screen as well. We want to make sure that we understand, and there's a lot of sticks and boxes on this org chart. I totally get that. Again, we need to eat this elephant one bite at a time. So we need to learn these positions one at a time and understand what they do, how they can benefit us on smaller incidents, larger incidents, whatever the case is. One of the first things that I want to talk about is size up and scene assessment. And you'll see on the planning P, it talks about assessment. What we're talking about here is kind of getting our mind's arms around the incident. How big is the incident? How intense is the incident? What's the total scope of the incident? Can I see one end of the incident from the other? Or do I need to enlist other folks to help me to get my mind around the size and the intensity and how complex this incident may be? That size up process allows us to gain that situational awareness that we need. And a lot of times we use situational awareness kind of as a catchphrase in the business. And situational awareness is not only what's going on around me and what I can see from right here, but what is the incident doing? Where is the incident going? Do I know that? Do I understand that? Do I really have a good grasp on what the incident is doing right now, but also where the incident's going? Where am I going to be in 4 or 5 hours? Where am I going to be in 24 hours? And so on down the line. Those things are important. And again, that initial size up and understanding the scope and understanding how complex this incident is now and how it could be is extremely important for our success. Once we've done that, there's a couple of other things that piece in and of itself, that situational awareness, that size up, that scope will help us do. And one thing is to identify who the unified command or the incident command players may be. It's very important to establish early on in the incident who those players are going to be. Who has a true stake, who has a jurisdictional or a functional stake in the incident. We want to establish that early, get those players talking to each other, get them in the same vehicle, get them in the same proximity, get them together, get them talking to each other so that we're successful with that process. If they're in two separate vehicles, if they're in two separate buildings, if they're not communicating, it is not going to work. Fundamentally, this incident will not get off the ground. It'll never go anywhere if those key players are not identified early. identified as to what their stake is in the incident early, and make sure that they're communicating. So you as an incident commander, you as an emergency manager, you as whatever, we've got to all foster that relationship and make sure that those things happen early in the incident. Another thing that Size Up can assist us with is the organizational structure. What does it need to look like? I've got all of these things that are responding. I've got all of these pieces of equipment that are coming to this incident. How do I need to organize those? And that gets into not only the situational piece and the situation unit on that org chart, but also the resource piece and the resource unit on that org chart. How do I organize these resources? How do I track these resources? Am I doing it on a notepad? Am I doing it in my head? I need something organized. It's very easy to lose track of what have I assigned and what did I assign them to. Remember our span of control. We don't want to get outside of our span of control too quickly. We've got to maintain that. So again, having someone who's watching that situational piece, that 10,000 foot view of the incident of what's going on, but also someone who's keeping up with those resources for us. One person cannot do this. An incident commander cannot do this alone. We've got to enlist these other players. Think about how many times you've been on an incident and you've got people that are standing around doing nothing. They're spectators. Big incident, large incident, lots and lots of people, but are we using our people to the maximum efficiency? Do we have people that have talent for organization, for being able to help us with kind of that mind's eye view of the incident? If we do, let's put them to work in that. So again, as far as the org chart goes, the two critical pieces that I like to enlist very first are those two units in the planning section, the resource unit leader and the situation unit leader. Excellent use of manpower, a really good efficient use of manpower, but we've got to do it early in the incident. But there's a lot of other things. Again, there's a lot of sticks and boxes on the org chart. There's a lot of other boxes and the things about the planning P, and all of those things have their place. I believe in it. I support the mandates to use the incident command system. I like it. It works. But again, it's complicated. I'm not gonna say that it's not. And it takes a long time to really get your mind around the system and how it's supposed to work. But here's the thing. If we do nothing other than these three things, if you can put your resources to work, anticipate the changes in the incident and keep up with the incident in and of itself and keep up with that situation that's going and be able to anticipate changes, and then communicate across the incident where there aren't any communication gaps, and make sure that people who need to be sharing information are identifying those key players and getting them to talk and getting them to stay together, you're way ahead of the game. And those are just a couple of fundamental pieces. If we can do those things, all the rest of that stuff will kind of fall into place. So those are kind of the pillars of incident management for anything that we'll ever do. Now again, we're going to do an entire series on ICS here on the channel. It won't be a 300 and 400 class for any type of credentialing or anything like that, but we're going to break down some of those things and some of those challenging pieces of the ICS system. We're going to do that for you, and it'll be a series here on the channel. But again, today we just wanted to look at what are some of those fundamental pieces we kind of chew on in this best practice. Again, the This Week in HazMat episodes are designed for what are the best practices, what are the things to keep us current, what are some case study type stuff, and this in and of itself is the pillar of everything that we do, incident command, incident management. Hey, I'm going to leave you with that today. Post down in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about. Let me know what you want to see in that ICS series. Let me know some of the things that bother you about the training that you've had. Again, I know it's information overload. I know if you've had the ICS 300 and 400 classes, you probably walked away in some cases maybe with more questions than answers, because it is so much information and it is so far from what we do on an everyday basis. But again, I want you to understand it works. The system works. The response and the incident management system itself, it's like a lot of the other things that we talk about. It's not just the sum of its parts. Everything fits together at the end of the day. So, but again, we've got to learn it in a methodical process. Remember that here on the channel, and also for This Week in HazMat, these episodes, we're not trying to change your policies. We're just trying to give you some best practices, trying to give you some information to chew on. Always make sure that you take this information and you overlay your policies and procedures that already exist with this information. It's totally supplemental. If you found us through Facebook, our Facebook group is also named HazMat Ops Training. If you didn't, and you found us through the YouTube search or something like that, go over to Facebook and join our group there, our HazMat Ops Training group. We invite you to do that. As always, make sure, I think it's in this corner, maybe in that corner, down at the bottom there's a subscribe icon. If you don't see that, just scroll up a little bit right under the screen. You'll see the big red subscribe button. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.